Hello, hooligans, and welcome back to episode 2 of my How to Make an NPV tutorial series. And today we are going to be making the second part of our NPV. If you remember from last episode, or if you've been following along, last episode we managed to shape key the head, and now we have a head that looks like basically our OC or V's or whoever you're making's head. And so in this episode, what we're going to be doing is we're going to actually be spawning them in game as well as adding a body and hair. So very exciting to finally see everything come together, and let's get straight into it. If you're opening Wolvenkit for the first time since last time we did this project, I just want you to know that Wolvenkit has this weird thing where if you're looking at your recent files that you have been working on and you try to click on one of them, it'll just disappear instead of actually opening up the file. And so what you got to do instead is click open a project and then go to wherever you're storing your basically mod files. And then you're going to go to wherever you're keeping the mod file that you created for your character. And then you're just going to, you see if you see this mod file right here that says CP mod proj, you're going to click on it. So right here, we can see it's the same as I had last time. Basically all of these different head mesh components. And we are going to continue off where we left off before. So to start, we're going to first open this in our File Explorer by clicking the little yellow icon. We're going to right click, create a new folder, and basically this is a folder to keep all of these head parts in. And you can title it whatever you want, but I'm just going to title it head parts. Like that. And then what you can do is you can take this, hold down shift, click on the first one, hold down shift, click on the last one, just select all of them, and then just drag this into here. Do the same with this one, and you'll see now we have them all nice and neat in its own folder called head parts. And the reason this is important is mainly just for organizational purposes, because if you don't organize your parts properly, it's going to be really difficult to find everything in the end, especially if you end up making like 10 appearances or something like that. Then all of your stuff is going to get lost in each other. Like imagine just having to filter through like clothes and hair and head parts and all this stuff just to get to one thing. So you want all of your things to be in their own little files. And again, you can name your folders whatever you want. You don't have to copy me. In fact, I recommend you don't copy me because for the sake of like mod conflicts and stuff. So anyway, now that we've got our folder for head parts, you're going to make a new folder. Once again, we're going to open this up to where it is in its original source folder, and we're going to right click, new folder, and create another folder. Now this folder is going to be where we keep all of our what most modders call paperwork, which is basically the storage container for all of our characters' different components and the thing that allows, basically the file that allows them to move properly. All of these are going to be kept into this folder that I'm naming paperwork, and again, you can name it whatever you want, but I recommend you name it something intuitive, so I'm calling it paperwork. The next thing you're going to do is we're going to go back to, if you remember Nora's website from before, now we're going to go to here, which I mentioned in the last video, not to download those in the first video, but right now we are going to download these, and we are going to want to download, for my case, female V app and int. If you're doing a male V, then you're going to do male V app and int. I'm going to go back here, go to your downloads, and you can see right here, just click into that zip file and we can see two things, FV NPV app and then FV NPV int. So we're going to grab these. I'm just going to separate these two. I'm going to grab these and nope. There we go. We're going to grab these and put them into the paperwork section. And you can see right there, they showed up. So now you might be wondering, what the heck are these things? Glad you asked, and I will explain it. So basically, the int file kind of controls your character's movement. Int is short for entity, which is basically an animated thing, anything that moves in the game. And so this kind of controls basically how your character moves in a way. You won't have to mess with this too much, but it is a vital part of the NPV making process. Now, an app file, on the other hand, is basically the container for all of your character's components. It's like if your V is made out of Legos, this is the box that the Legos came in. That's what the app file is. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to rename these. I'm just going to name this Eliza Heathcliff.app. And remember, only lowercase and underscores instead of spaces. So, lowercase Eliza underscore Heathcliff. Okay, and now that that's all sorted, we can open this up. Now, if you go to this little caret right here that says appearances, this is basically the only thing that we're going to need to worry about. But right here we have a little caret that says appearances. We're just going to drop this down. And then this little 0 right here, we're going to drop that down. And whoa, what's all this? Glad you asked. So basically, this is a lot, but there's only a few things that are going to be really important within here. So the first thing you're going to want to do is name this according to the first look that you want your character to have. So an appearance in an NPV is basically a singular look that a character can have. So right here I'm putting on screen right now a picture of Johnny, and Johnny is not wearing his sunglasses in this picture. That would be a singular appearance that Johnny has right now. But then you see when he has his sunglasses on, that's a second appearance because his sunglasses are on and therefore he looks different, and even if it's just a tiny change, he still looks different. And so that's basically what an appearance is, and that's basically how a character's different looks are categorized. And so basically every single little caret drop down underneath the appearances tab is going to be a different way your character will look. And the first and you can name this whatever you want. I am going to name this, let's see, I'm going to name this, I'll name this Rocker Girl, because I'm probably going to try to go for kind of a punky, like, Riot Girl look for this first one, so I'm just going to name this Rocker Girl. Now, if we drop this down again, and we drop down this little caret that says components, whoa, what's all this? So the first thing you're going to want to do, and this is controversial, not everybody does this, but I like to click on this, hold down shift, click on all of them except for the first one. So you see where it says NPV component mesh, right? So we're deleting every single NPV component mesh except for the first one. So then just right click and then click delete selection array/buffer, and boom. Now we're going to do the same with what says NPV component anim rig. Select all of them except for one and delete selection. Now right here we're left with a few things. We're left with mesh, anim rig, face rig, man-based face animations, light blocking, jaw, and appearance visual controller. Now, you don't need to know the logistics of most of this stuff, because the only things we're really going to be changing is this, and we're going to eventually end up duplicating this a ton of times in order to accommodate all of our different appearances, or all of our different components. So without further ado, let's get started with putting in our very first component. So we click on this, and we have right here what I like to call the big four. So the big four are the four things that are going to make your component show up in your NPV's appearance. Number 1 is the chunk mask, number 2 is the mesh, number 3 is the name, and number 4 is the appearance. And I will explain what all of these are and what all of these do in a second. So the first thing that's important is the mesh, right? And so our character's mesh, as I explained in the last video, a mesh is essentially just a 3D object. And so that, when you click on that, you see this is the mesh. And this is basically the basis for this entire component. And I'm going to start with the head, obviously. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this, get a right click, and then you're going to click copy relative path to game file. And this will copy this path right here. You're just going to, and you're going to go right here. You're going to click on where it says mesh and depot path. And under depot path, you're going to highlight all of this and then click control and then V. And then that just allowed us to paste in the file path of our head. And so now what will happen is it's going to read this mesh right here, and it's going to say, oh, this is the head that I need to use for this particular character, right? And so, yeah, that is number 1. Now, the second thing is going to be the mesh appearance. Now, the mesh appearance, how do we know what appearances we're allowed to use? And the answer to that is first by clicking into this file. So we're going to double click on this right here. And we're going to see right at the top, there's a little caret that says appearances. and we're just going to drop that down. Now you can see right here, there's so much stuff, but for the head in particular, what we need to know is there are several different skin colors and then several different complexions that go along with those skin colors. And so I'm going to go to Nora's part picker actually, like I showed you in the last video. Her skin type is complexion number 2. So this is important for picking for when you're trying to figure out what head we want. We need to know the skin tone and the complexion for choosing an appearance for the head. So now we're going to click generate parts list, and right here it says that our mesh appearance is going to be 01 CA pale 00 warm ivory DO2. And so if we look right in here, 01CA pale, 00 warm ivory DO2. So this is indeed an appearance that we can use, and as such, it is also in the part picker. So yeah, you can use the part picker. I'd recommend using the part picker to accomplish the mesh appearance part, but knowing how to open up these files will be important for a reason that I will explain later. But I just wanted to show you how basically how to know which appearances you're allowed to choose from, and that's by going into the file and looking at this entire list. But if you want to know the exact one that's right for your character, use the part picker. So I'm just going to grab this, copy, and then we can paste it into the mesh appearance section. Right that. So that's number 2. Number 3 is the name, and the name can be anything you want as long as it's lowercase, has no special characters, and uses underscores instead of spaces. So I'm just going to call this head. A lot of people don't really agree with this, and they prefer to like keep it as like the H0000, etc. But I prefer it to be nice and readable, so head. You can again name it whatever you want. And the last thing is the chunk mask. Now the chunk mask is a little bit hard to explain. So I'm going to actually pull up some footage of me clicking through this in game to demonstrate. So basically what I'm using right here is this mod called the Appearance Creator mod. And the Appearance Creator mod basically allows you to flip through different submeshes and turn different components on and off in real time in the game. Now, what are submeshes and what is a chunk mask, you might ask? And so the first thing is a submesh. A submesh is basically little tiny components that make up a whole mesh. So there's smaller parts of a big 3D object. Like, for example, say that there is, like, I don't know, a jacket file in the game. The jacket might have, like, the zippers as one submesh, and then, like, the main body of the jacket is another submesh, and then, like, maybe some fancy like pins or doodads or something as a third submesh, and this together makes up an entire jacket. Now the reason this is important when it comes to creating a character's head is oftentimes the devs will, instead of having separate meshes for each different scar, each different piercing, they'll just toss every single piercing in the game together into one file, or every single scar in the game into one file. And our job is to turn off the submeshes that have the stuff that we don't need, and turn on the submeshes that have the stuff that we do need. The head isn't a great example of this, because the head, we want the entire head to be showing. And so, we are going to need to use the code that allows the entire head to show. So if you drop this down and you look at all of these different boxes right here, basically checking these will create what are called different chunk mask codes. And chunk masking, again, is basically a term for turning on and off the submeshes. So you can see right here that I'm just manually turning all of these on, and we'll be duplicating this appearance, and it'll save this chunk mask code and it'll save this chunk mask code for us, so we can always go back to it next time we need something like this. But I'm just going to select all of these. And there we have it. So this long string of numbers basically tells the game, hey, show me every single submesh in this file. Show me every single part of this whole head. Which the head is only composed of one part anyway, so it's a little counterintuitive. But that's basically what I'm trying to get at here, is that this tells the game, hey, show me every single part of this mesh that you can. And so now we have gotten every single part of what I call the big four. We have the chunk mask, the mesh appearance, and the name. So now we can move on to the next one. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to right click on this, and we're going to click duplicate items in array/buffer. and just click on that and it'll duplicate itself. And the reason why I deleted all of the components earlier is because I find this way easier, considering that there is the chunk mask code copies over, so we can just keep that in there instead of having to type it in every single time. So the next thing up on our list is eyebrows. So I'm just going to right click, copy relative path to game file, the same drill as before. Control A to select all of it, Control V to paste, and we have that nice and pasted. So of course what we're going to do is we're going to go back to Nora's part picker and we're going to go to our hair colors. We don't actually see the names of the hair colors in the character creator, but we do have the numbers of them, as we can see right there. And so if I scroll down to 34, that is purple blonde. And now that we have purple blonde selected, for our eyebrows we also need a... Wait, I screwed up. No, you need to... Eyebrow color and hair color can be different, so I'm just going to do the same thing. So purple blonde is my eyebrow color and my hair color.
Shakespeare's eyebrow color was, indeed, not purple blonde. Shakespeare's eyebrow color was lilac umber, but Shakespeare did not notice because she is a cotton-headed Ninny Muggins.
And we're also going to need an eyebrow shape. So our eyebrow shape is going to be number 8. So we're just going to generate that parts list, and we can see right here that our eyebrows are going to be purple blonde 08. I'm just going to copy that in, mesh appearance, and then paste. And then this, the next part of the big four is going to be the name, and that is just going to be brows for me. Again, you can name this whatever you want. And remember to save periodically. That's a very important thing, is that don't go too long without saving your work, because sometimes Wolven Cake can like crash unexpectedly and stuff, and we don't want that. So yeah. And the last thing, of course, is the chunk mask, and eyebrows are one thing and one thing only. We only have one submesh in here, and so we can just keep it like this. We can keep all of the submeshes turned on because there's only one of them anyway. Now we're going to duplicate this and do the drill again. We got eyelashes up next. And eyelashes are one thing and one thing only, so we can just keep the chunk mask the way it is. Okay, so now we can count. We got this, we got this, we got this, and we got this. All 4 of them. Boom, 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 boom. Let's go on to the next one. Right click, duplicate. Now we're moving on to eyeballs. And honestly, at this point, I would recommend that you just plug in every single one of your character's presets and then just get a list spit out for you, because that'll make things as easy as possible at this point. I don't know why I didn't do that before. By the way, I want to remind you guys that pictures of Eliza that I'm showing aren't actually going to be reflecting the way that she will look at the end of this video, just because, again, I'm ditching some of the mods that are in this picture, so hence the different eyeballs and stuff like that. Okay, so as you can see here, I've got all my components generated. And I'm just going to go through and I'm going to copy down everything here. Just going through this entire list using the method that I taught you. We're just going to paste all of these in and create an entire list of components here. So we're just going to paste in the appearance. And we're keeping this chunk mask as is. Next up is cyberware. And if you're wondering again why I'm not messing with the chunk mask, I will explain. Once I get to a point where the chunk mask becomes important again, I will explain that. Okay, now this is important right here. For our personal slot decal, the part picker, there's only one personal slot decal option. It's not actually in the part picker, so I will tell you which one to pick. Just going to add that in there. Now, if we open this up right here, like I mentioned earlier, drop down the appearances section. Personal link is the one that you want. And yeah, as I was saying earlier, if you type in default, oftentimes that can just like screw things up. And I believe last time I typed default into the personal slot, it turned gray, which is not what we want. So yeah, just personal link is what you want for the mesh appearance for the personal slot. Here's where chunk masks are going to start to get important again. Because if we go right here and we go down to the blemishes, we can see that it says for the blemish option you have selected, you will use the chunk mask code 2. And now we can see right here, right, when I drop this down, it has everything selected, right? So this implies that every single submesh, every single part that makes up a whole mesh is selected here. However, when I do Control A, backspace, and then Control V, nope, sorry, and then 2, then what that does is when we click on this, we'll see that it only has number one chunk. Only has the first chunk mask selected. Only has the first submesh selected. And so if we open this file up, right, and we click on Mesh Preview, and we take this off. Actually, no, sorry. This is 0 is unchecked, 1 is checked, which means that right here we can see that these are the blemishes that Eliza has, not both of them, but only this one. And so that's what we want, is we want to copy the chunk mask codes on here in order to properly reflect what our character looks like. Scars are the same deal. So scars also have a chunk mask code, and as we can see right here, that chunk mask code is going to be scars 01. Sorry, whoops. No, that chunk mask code is going to be 1. So right here, we just backspace and then type in 1, and we can see right here that 0 is checked, and that is what we want. Because and 0 does not mean nothing. 0 is the name of one of the submeshes, and that's the one that we have checked right now. Now, if you've been duplicating your items and you need to go back to having every single chunk mask code selected for things like tattoos, lashes, stuff like that, then what we're going to do is we're just going to go over here. We're going to Control A, Control C to copy it, and then Control A to select all, and then Control V to bring it all in. And that's basically how you get it back to how it was originally. So yeah, you can just this code right here is the code that is used for when every single submesh is selected and is showing. Now earrings again have a similar situation when it comes to chunk masks. However, we have 2 earring files instead of 1, so I'm just going to name this earrings 1. Our mesh appearance is going to be plastic black, and then earring 1. And we are going to want the chunk mask code for earring 1 it's going to be 15. For earring 2 it's going to be 2048. So 15, let's type that in. Backspace 15. And you can see right here that selects numbers 0, 1, 2, and 3. And so if we want to go into the earring file right here, whoops, we can see right here we've got a lot of stuff. We've got what's it called? I don't know piercing terminology, like a stacked lobe, 2 lobes next to each other, an industrial. However, 0, 1, 2, 3, so we can deselect this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. And I believe that'll just leave us with the industrial and then these 3 lobe piercings right here. And you can see that that matches the picture where she just has the 3 lobe piercings on the left, and then the industrial isn't showing, but it's definitely there. Now we're going to do the same here. We're going to duplicate this. And since plastic black is already here, and we know that the material is the same for both earrings, we don't need to type anything in again. We can just type in the chunk mask code 2048 and rename this to say earrings 2. And would you look at that? We have every single, whoops, no. I caught myself there. I have got to type in, that's the mesh path, earrings 2. Perfect. So now we can save this file. And we can see right here, this is Eliza's entire head. This is every single part that makes up her head, and it's pretty cool. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to add a body and hair. However, there is one last thing we have to do before we add a body and hair, and that's to combat an issue that happens specifically with eyeballs. I forgot if I mentioned earlier or not, but eyeballs can act a little janky sometimes, so I'm just going to show you what's up with that. So basically, if you double click to open the eyeball file, right? We can see here in our mesh preview, if we go to the mesh preview tab and pan around here, we can see that there are 2 layers to this eyeball. The first one is the eyeball itself. So this is where the iris shows up. When we have our textures, our eyeball textures, the iris will show up on this right here. Now, secondly, this is called the eye wetness. So the eye wetness is basically the sheen is basically what gives eyes their natural looking sheen. And so there are only 2 components in this eyeball, right? These 2 layers have 1 texture assigned to them each. However, if we go into here, drop down the Appearances tab, and I'm going to go to Multi-Layer Skull Black right here. We can see there's actually 3 materials here. There's eyelashes, Multi-Layer Skull Black, that's the iris, and then eye wetness. So eyelashes, iris, wetness. But then we go here, and we see that this is the iris and this is the wetness. And in order for it to work, what's going to happen is that the eyelash texture is going to show up on here, whereas the eyeball texture will show up on the wetness. And that's just going to make the eyes look super cursed, and we do not want that. So what we're going to do instead is basically change the order of these. And honestly, I don't really know the reason for this, but it is just a thing that you're going to have to learn how to fix. And it's actually helpful to know how material layers work, because it can allow you to kind of finagle your own textures in the future and stuff like that. So anyway, just first of all, remember that number 1 is the iris, number 2 is the wetness. We're going to go back here, going to scroll down. So this should be the iris. So we're going to copy this into here. Like that. And now number 2 is the wetness. So we're going to copy the eye wetness material right into here. And then the 3rd layer doesn't even exist, so we can just delete that. And perfect. So now we can see if we compare it. We can do this, of course, with any other eyeball material. So, like, of course, for this one, if we chose like the blood gradient violet, then you would want this to be right here, and this to be right here, and this deleted. So yeah, that's basically how it works, and that's how you get your eyeballs to show up in a way that doesn't look cursed. So yeah. Now, the next thing, of course, as promised, I'm going to show you how to add a body, as well as a lot of other body components. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into Common, Player-Based Bodies, Player Man or Female Average, I'm choosing female, and right here we've got a whole list of stuff that we can choose from. Now, the first thing I'm going to do, of course, is I'm going to open up my file folder, go to my main directory, right-click, new folder, and then I'm just going to name this body. That will keep all of our body components nice and organized. So the first thing I'm going to want is a body for my character. Now, this, of course, for the for player man average, you only get really 1 male body option, and that's this. I wish there were more male body options. I say this as a male V player. I wish there were more male body options, but there are not. But if you're a female, then you get 3 options, which is the breast big, breast small, and then the average breast one. Eliza has small, so I'm going to be choosing this one right here. However, I'm going to open this up and we'll quickly see that there's a problem. And that problem is that when we drop this down right here, if we remember from the head from the head color, right? This is pale warm ivory. There's no pale warm ivory here, which is not a great thing. And I don't exactly know why this is, but it's not good. So I'm going to show you actually how to, if you see your character's skin color missing from a list for some reason, how to basically get that skin color back on them. Also, make sure to save your eyeball file. That's important. When there's a little asterisk next to it, it means it's not saved. So make sure to save it. Okay, so here's how we do this. So what we're going to do is I'm going to grab the average, I'm going to grab this one. This is T0000 PWA base full. So this is like the most averagest of average female body types that you can get, which means that it's going to have the most skin textures in there. You see, instead of the 19 we have here, this one has 38. Again, for some reason, I don't know why. This one has 38, this one only has 19. And so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go to Tools, Export Tool, Refresh, and then I am going to export this one right here. I'm going to export the body type that I want and just export like that. Perfect. Now the next thing I'm going to do, since it's already in the same folder as this one, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rename, copy this name. I'm going to right click on this one that we just exported, paste this in here, and then click finish. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Tools, Import Tool, and then I'm going to click on this right here, this file that we just exported that we renamed, and click Import Selected. Now as we can see here, this is indeed the, even though it says that this is the average female one, this is now the small one. And the reason, and basically what we just did here is that whenever we basically rename a file to match another file exactly and then import it, what it does is this file's mesh will overwrite the other file's mesh, but then the materials from the original file will transfer onto the materials from this file. So essentially what it's doing is when we import over a file, it's basically telling the game, hey, this is the material list that I want. And so now when we open up the this small breast mesh right here, right, we can see that there's 38 appearances, and it now includes pale warm ivory. So that is basically how you do it. If you don't see the skin color that you need, just go through that process, and you can do this with pretty much anything. Obviously, use your own discretion. Like, don't import a body over an eyeball, for example, because that would look cursed. And unless you want a cursed NPV, I'm not here to stop you. But yeah, basically that's how you do it. So I'm going to go into. Actually, first I'm going to delete this one because this is the old one, and I'm going to drag this into the body section. I'm going to right click to copy the relative path, duplicate this item, I'm going to name this body, the mesh appearance is going to be, mesh appearance is going to be pale warm ivory, and our chunk mesh code, since we want the entire body to be showing, we need to paste in this entire code. And perfect. So now we've got our body. Next up on our list is going to be arms. So as for arms, what you can do if you can't find your arms file is, I will show you. Now while I'm waiting for the game to load, I'm going to kind of explain how arms are going to work in this scenario. So as you guys know, there are a lot of arm meshes in this game. There's monowires, there's mantis blades, there's plain organic arms. There's a lot of different arms. And while Eliza does use plain organic arms, that's one of the most simple examples I could give, and I want to show you basically how, if your character uses mantis blades or something, how to find all those files and see which ones that you actually need to work with. So here is the tool that I will be booting up in game. It's called the Appearance Creator mod. It was made by the same people who made the Appearance Menu mod. And essentially what it does is it allows you to toggle components on and off in real time, as well as edit them and find basically any files in the game. And basically the reason why this is important is because when you target a character with your cursor, it'll basically tell you every single mesh that makes up their appearance. And the reason why we want that is because it'll allow us to basically see every single part that makes up a mantis blade or a monowire or whatever we want, you know? Okay, so we're in game, and here's what I'm about to show you. So right now I'm playing with my male character, Vincent, and he is in a goofy-ass pose that I made a while ago, so we're going to get him out of that. Anyway, we can see right here that he's wearing mantis blades currently. Now, he doesn't usually wear mantis blades, hence why his arms don't match up with the custom body that I made. It's because I didn't actually sculpt mantis blades for him. He usually has organic arms, but I digress. These are not usually his arms, but I have them on him for the sake of demonstration. Essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the CET overlay. And right here you can see there's a little drop down for the Appearance Creator mod. And if we scroll down, we can see that these are all the things that make up Vince's body parts. And we can see right here, look at that. These are all the Mantis Blades files that he's using. So there's holstered left, holstered right, holstered upper arm left, holstered upper arm right. And then it repeats for some reason. But yeah, so essentially what I'm going to do is go back into Woven Kit. Now, if you use cybernetic arms, you're going to want to go into, under the characters tab, there's cyberware, player, and then all of these options right here, right? So for mantis blades, for example, I'm going to go into mantis blades, entities, meshes, and then we can see all of these right here. And you're going to choose only the ones that are listed in here. So let's see, there's upper arm right, upper arm left. So right here, upper arm left, upper arm right. Holstered left, holstered right, holstered left, holstered right, and then holstered upper arm left and holstered upper arm right. Right there. This means in this case we won't need the stuff like the blade because that's obviously when they're in use, right? So we won't need the mechanisms, anything like that. So basically that's how you figure out what you need and don't need for your character. However, luckily Eliza, however, has pretty simple arms, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into common, player base bodies, female average, arms, and then right here we can see that these are the arms I want. Now you can also choose to choose to do one arm at a time, or you can choose to do both of them. I like to do one arm at a time just in case I want to make like edits to one of them or something like that. So it's kind of nice to have the option to separate the two arms, so I like to just do two separate arms. So yeah, this is left arm, right arm. Now, another thing we need is nails. That's important. I'm just going to click in here, and you can choose either long or short depending on if your character has long or short nails. Eliza's are long, so I'm going to do left long, right long. Now, if we go back into here, the next thing up is genitals. So I'm actually not going to be demonstrating anything genital related in this video because of YouTube reasons, but basically these are nipples. I will be adding nipples, but I'm not going to be showing them on camera, obviously. So this is for big breast, small breast, and average size, so I'm going to choose the small one. Now, this is for if your character has a wiener. Of course, you can find the female ones right here, and then the male ones are going to be under the male tab. Oh, and the same goes for hair, by the way. This is for if your character has a... I'm trying to figure out how to say this in a YouTube-friendly way. Anyway, I'm going to add this too. Now, we move down to scars. Eliza does have scars, so this is for, obviously, breast big, breast small, breast average. I'm going to choose small. You're going to drag that down. Now tattoos, of course, this corresponds with each tattoo in the character creator. So this is for tattoo 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. She uses number 3 at the moment. So I'm going to choose 3 for the small breasts. Oh yeah, and a couple more things in the arms category. I just want to go through these I just want to go through some of the important ones real quick. This is the injection that Vic gives you. I'm not going to be using this since Eliza is not a V. This is your personal link that it goes on your wrist. I'm going to use this one. This is the tattoo that Johnny Boy gives you, the heart or the billy goat. I won't be using this one either because Eliza's not a V. This one is the tattoo that Wakako gives you during that one gig. I forgot its name, but yeah. And arms. And I'm not sure what this is, actually. I think it might have to do with the Street Kid prologue, but if anyone knows, let me know, please. Actually, you know what? I kind of want to see what this is. I'm curious. Let's see together what this is. I'm just going to add that and put that in there. And I realized that there's this one component that I always thought was useless, which it turns out actually isn't entirely useless, and it is called the seam fix. And what the seam fix does is there's oftentimes a little gap between V's neck, shoulder, arms, and torso, and this oftentimes will fix that. So I'm just going to add this. It's a very minor change, but it does make a world of difference. And so now this is all our body components. And let's get cracking on these. I'm just going to do the same process as before, but remember, Nora's part picker only works with the body itself and then the head. So we're on our own with this stuff. We're gonna have to figure out these appearances ourselves, which is good because it'll give us practice. So I'm just going to duplicate this. Left arm. Now, as you can see here, arms follow the exact same naming conventions as the body, so we don't even have to copy-paste anything. These are the mysterious fists. I'm going to call them mysterious fists. Oh, it looks like there's only one appearance here. And it is player woman average base fist material. Let's go. Left nails. Now, Nora's part picker actually does have an option for nails, so I do rescind what I said earlier. And this one is going to be ragged black. Now the personal link, I'm just going to copy this into here. And as for the material, when we open up the personal link, and I realized earlier I did a process with these fists that I should have told you guys about and completely forgot to. So I'm going to tell you about what I did right there. So you'll notice that here, instead of just typing in default, I dropped down default and dropped down this thing that says chunk materials, and I copied this. And the reason why I did that, and I'll do the same thing here because this also says default, but the reason why I did that is because oftentimes when you type in default, appearances will just show up as like gray. I don't know why this is. I mean, I don't really know why this is. So, oftentimes just to prevent like conflicts and stuff, I just prefer to do this. And this is again only in the scenario where there's one appearance named default. So, right here there's one appearance named default. So I'm going to drop down chunk materials, and this is called Lambert 1. Again, this is another problem. This has the same problem that we had before with the body. So, of course, we're going to do the same process as before. We're going to grab the average nipple instead of the small one. We're going to grab the average one. And I'm going to actually drag this up here. I'm going to export the one that I want, whose material I want to change. So that's this one. I want to change this material list. And I'm going to copy this name. And I'm going to paste it in here. Now it has the exact same name and file path as the one whose materials we want to steal. So I'm just going to grab this file, import it, and success. So now when I open this up, sorry, wrong, wait. Yeah, now when I open this up, it is indeed the small one, but it now has 38 appearances, which is what we want. And so right here, there's we can see there's stuff like pale, but then there's also pale 2 and pale 3. I believe that pale is default nipple size, 2 is small, and 3 is large, I believe. So I'm going to choose 3. Oh, whoops. Okay, I made an oopsie. No. So here's the thing. If you copy a file path from somewhere and then you move it, then that means that the file path gets broken and it's no longer usable. So what you have to do is you can't just copy the file path from somewhere and then move it elsewhere and then leave it that way. If you move a file, then you have to recopy the file path, which is why I recommend that once you put your files in a place, you keep them in that place, you don't move them whatsoever. So I'm just going to grab this. It's going to grab this from its rightful location, and I'm going to replace that. Okay, so now we're good. Okay. We already got the body. Seam fix. So I'm going to duplicate that. Seam fix. And again, this just says default. One appearance says default. So I'm going to drop this down. And there's either arms mat or neck mat to choose from. I don't believe it matters because, again, this is just one part of the default appearance. So you can choose either one of them. And boom. Second to last is scars. Scars. And so we actually don't want default here. In the case that there's more than one and one of them says default, you're going to choose the one that doesn't say default. And as you can see, there are 4 scars right here, and we're going to choose scar 01. Now this is our tattoo. Perfect. So now the very last thing we need, because now we've got all of our head components and all of our body components, the last thing we need is hair. So in order to find hair, what you're going to do is you're going to go into the hair section, and this, I believe, is where we keep every hair in the game, including NPC hair. So you can see there's like Panem and stuff. So here's the thing: is you don't have to be limited to just stuff in the character creator. You can choose whatever hairstyle you want, which is pretty cool. The same principles apply to adding a player hairstyle as applies to adding an NPC hairstyle. However, just note that if you have an NPC hairstyle, that in order to get like a custom hair color or the color. In order to get all the colors available to you that you have in the character creator, requires skills that are above me and that also aren't really related to NPV stuff. So maybe I'll learn someday and make a tutorial about that. But yeah, just know that you will be, if you choose a hairstyle that's just for an NPC, then you'll be limited to just their hair color. And of course, if you want to steal like a hair from like a Phantom Liberty character or something, you can do the same thing, but go down to what says EP1, characters, common, hair, and then you can choose from any of these hairstyles that belong to these characters, like Songbird. I love Songbird's hair; it's my favorite. However, if you're choosing a player hairstyle and you need just know that it is in the part picker. So, like for example, if you want this hair right here, right? And I actually changed my mind. I don't want purple blonde hair. I want lilac ombre hair. So I'm going to choose lilac ombre and generate parts list. And just same drill as before. You're gonna go grab this from the game files. However, hairs in this game have this thing called physics, and physics require what's called a rig and an anim graph, and I will show you how to add those in a second. So I'm thinking that I am going to go for Songbird's hair. I'm gonna give her Songbird's hair, I think. And again, since I'm using Songbird's hair, I can't actually change the color of it unless I were to go through some fancy schmancy process. So yeah. So here's what I'm going to do is, since I plan to possibly experiment with some hairstyles with Eliza, I'm going to make a new folder and I'm going to title it hair. I'm also going to make another folder and I'm going to title it anim, so that I can have somewhere to keep my hair anim graphs. So of course I already added this one. Now what I need to add is these dangle skeletons and rigs. So this is going to be the dangle. This is going to be the anim graph. So I'm just going to drag this into hair. And I'm going to drag this into anim. This is also going to be into anim. Perfect. And so now here's what we're going to do. So basically, the reason why we kept this original animated component is because basically this is how we get hair to not be wonky. This is how we get hair to do its like little swingy thing and have all this cool physics that they have in the game. So, and the thing is, if you try to put hairs in without physics, then it'll like sink into the ground and it looks super cursed. And we don't want that. So it's really simple actually to set this up. So what we do is we just right click, copy, where it says long dangle anim graph, paste that in here. Then we copy where it says long dangle skeleton.rig, and we paste this into here where it says rig. So perfect, we've got our graph and we've got our rig. And I'm just going to rename this. I'm going to name this Songbird Hair Rig. Now, the last thing we need to do is add in the hair. So I'm going to duplicate this item, and I am going to rename this Song Hair. I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it into here. Now the last thing I need is an appearance, and since I can't use an NPC hairstyle with the part picker, I'm going to double click to open this, and we can see that there's only one appearance, which is Songbird Long App. And paste. Perfect. So now we have got every single component that we could need. And oftentimes it's good to just go through and double check all your work just to make sure that everything's in place. But it's not a tragedy if you mess something up, because you can always go back and fix your mistakes if you do. We're not done yet. First, just delete all the stuff you don't need. So delete all these extra folders that are junking up the place. Perfect. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to make an int Lua app chain, and I will explain what that means in a second. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go down to where we have our what's called int file or entity file, and we're going to open this up. Now this basically controls our like characters like movement and animations and stuff like that. And so what you have to do is you have to basically tell it which appearance file to correspond with. So I'm going to temporarily X this out, and I'm going to drop in this little caret that says appearances. And I'm going to see right here where it says NPV appearance 0. We're just going to change that name to match. Whoops, I should not have closed that. We're going to change that appearance to match the one that we just made. So under all this components tab, just remember right where the dropdown is, the thing that we named earlier, that's going to be Rocker Girl in my case. So I'm going to name this Rocker Girl. And the same thing down here, Rocker Girl. And as for the depot path, basically what you're going to do is you're just going to copy the file path of the app file, and then you're going to paste it right in here. And perfect, that is our file path. Now there is make sure to save it. Now there is one last file we need, and that is called a Lua file. So in order to get a Lua file, what we're going to do is, and I know what you're thinking, we saw this on the website, on Nora's website, and this file does work super well. However, there is a different one I want to grab, and I will explain why in a second. But we're going to go to we're going to go to this website right here. And the reason why we're using this website instead of Nora's is because this Lua that I'm about to download is a special Lua that allows us to eventually be able to make a custom scanner entry for a character, just like this one right here. And it looks super cool, and I think that that is a cool thing to do. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to the tab that says My Resources, and you're going to open it. Now you're just going to download it. Now you can see right there where it says NPV customization. I'm just going to create a new tab right here. And you can see I'm already in my Cyberpunk directory, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to click into where it says NPV customization, and I'm going to click on bin, and I'm just going to keep clicking until we reach this thing that says NPV base _ Lua. And keep tabs on that for a second while you navigate to your Cyberpunk directory. That's going to be in local disk, program files, Steam, Steam apps, Common, Cyberpunk 2077. And in order to get to the folder that this needs to go into, you're going to go to bin, x64, plugins, cyber engine tweaks, mods, appearance menu mod, collabs, custom entities, and boom. You can see right here, I have got a lot of NPVs, and we're going to add one more to that today. So I'm just going to copy this in here, and I'm going to name this Shook Eliza Heathcliff.lua. Perfect. And so now that we've got that in there, we are going to open it right up by double clicking, and this is probably going to end up opening in Notepad or Notepad Plus or whatever it's called. This is a default program on your computer, I believe, so you don't have to like do any downloading or whatever. So we're going to fill out some of this information. So the first thing we're going to fill out is where it says modder. You just put your name right here. So Shooksbeard is my modern name, so Shooksbeard. Unique identifier is basically I always like to go for whatever I've been tagging all of my files with. So in that case, it would be Shook Eliza Heathcliff. So usually just a abbreviation for your modern name plus your character name. That's usually the format I like to go for the unique identifier. Now, name is going to be essentially how you want your character's name to appear in the appearance menu mod list. And you're allowed to use capital letters and spaces here, which is super great and a nice breath of fresh air. So this is going to be Eliza, capital, Heathcliff, like that. The next thing we need is our path. So this is going to be, right here is going to be the path to our entity file. And right here we're just going to copy this, copy relative path to game file, go back to Notepad, and then we're going to paste this right in here. Now the next part is very, 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 very important. What you're going to do is you're going to add a second slash to each slash right here. So that should say Shook Eliza Heathcliff / paperwork / Eliza Heathcliff.int. So yeah, do not forget the second backslash. It's easy to miss. Now we can ignore record and type for now, but we will be coming back to those in probably like the last episode. And the last thing is appearances. So appearances are always going to be in the format where it's in quotation marks, comma, space, and the next appearance. So right now, since we only have one appearance, I can just delete all this and go rocker girl, comma, like that. So rocker girl in quotation marks with a comma after it, and that's that. And this is all we need for now. So what we're going to do is go File, Save your project, and we can check right here to make sure that everything's Gucci. So I like to just go down the chain. We can see that this Shook Eliza Heathcliff paperwork Eliza Heathcliff int is correct. Now if we go into here, we can see that it says Rocker Girl Eliza Heathcliff.app. And then we go in here, and we can see that we have our appearance file. And again, you can go check over these, make sure that you have everything in place. But it's not the end of the world if you mess something up. You can always go back and fix it and reinstall later. But yeah. And one last thing I wanted to mention. If you're following along with a female character, you might notice it says man-based face animations, or man-face base animations. You do not need to change this to say woman. In fact, you shouldn't, because it's going to say man regardless of gender. And that's basically just what the face animations are called. So just don't sweat it. It's supposed to say man face base animations. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the top of the screen with this little triangle that says install, and just click the triangle. And bada bing, bada boom. She is installed and she is in our... Wait for it. She's in our mod folder. Woohoo! Okay. So, Cyberpunk does not feel like behaving today. Cyberpunk 2077. It's late. I didn't get much sleep last night. I had to delete I recorded most of this tutorial yesterday, and then I had to delete half of it, so I'm kind of losing my mind here. But that's okay. We're all mad here. Or should I say, we're all mad here. That was my Mad Hatter impression. Did you like it? Let me know in the comments if you like my Mad Hatter impression. Okay, so we are in game now, and let's see how she spawns. I'm very excited. So what we're going to do is I'm going to type in Eliza, and we can see right here she shows up, Heathcliff. Now, would you look at that? We can see everything on her is just the way it should be. So her head looks correct, and her eyeballs look correct. And her face looks correct. And her hair looks correct. And everything looks correct. See, we got basically everything that I wanted. So yeah, that is essentially how we do it. And it's great. So yeah, hold up, I'm gonna turn off her body so that I can back up and not have her be inappropriate. So yeah, that is your tutorial on how to spawn your character in. Now, don't stop the series here. If you're watching and you think to yourself, okay, my NPV's done, we're not done yet. We still have a few more things to do, adding in modding components, and some very exciting news I got is that the mod author who made the custom eyes framework, the eyes framework that almost every single modded eye in the game uses, that person gave me permission to crack open their files on camera. And so we're going to do that in a future episode, as well as show you how to add in some modded hair. I got some permission from mod authors to crack open their files on camera too. We're also going to learn how to add in clothes, and we're going to learn how to add in multiple appearances. We're going to learn how to add a custom scanner entry, and we're going to learn how to custom path, which basically means you're going to be proofing your mod from being able to be overwritten or conflict with any other mods. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next episode. Goodbye.